Well, you've just visited Lauren and Scott's beautiful garden. Now they're joining us here in the studios to talk about a great symposium that's coming up at the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center, sponsored by the Garden Conservancy, a very important garden organization here in the United States. Welcome to the show. It's always great to have you here.
Thanks for having us back.
Yeah. You all are going to be speaking at the Garden Conservancy's symposium. It's called Limestone and Water. It's going to be happening on October 31st. And featured speakers, and there's kind of a theme, I guess, for the year, which is celebrating place, right?
The theme is, limestone and water, or maybe we should say this summer, limestone and occasional water, or periodic water.
Rare.
Right. But that sets the backdrop for gardening in Austin, and so that's the theme.
That's whenever I hear limestone water, I just envision like Hamilton Pool or something like that. But limestone water and plants, right, Lauren?
Yes. Never forget the plants. That's our mission. That's our part of the symposium. We're going to be emphasizing the plant aspect of that.
And for those who maybe just tuned in and missed the introduction to Scott and Lauren, wonderful garden designers and garden authors, big advocates of vibrant plant-driven design. Plant-centric design is another way to think of it.
From our standpoint, that's the way to go, and that's what we're going to be talking about. And we're really looking forward to getting a chance to present that for an Austin audience.
Right. Now, you're going to be joined at the symposium by a couple of other really terrific speakers.
Yeah. Both of them are Texans. So we have Stephen Orr, who's a West Texan, and he's now in New York City, and he's a garden writer and a consultant. And all of us are going to be speaking about different aspects of sustainability from a regional and a local point of view. So Stephen's going to be addressing that in his way. And then we have Dylan Crane Robertson, who you all know very well as former co-partner in Big Red Sun and now on his own D. Crane Design. He's done a lot of really cool stuff around this area. And so he'll be talking about his philosophies and on garden design and creating beautiful outdoor spaces here in a sustainable way.
And Dylan is definitely a philosopher. So
yes, he is.
We'll get that.
Actually trained in philosophy.
Really?
So
yeah, that's cool. And y'all are philosophers in a way too. When it comes to you have I think a philosophy of gardening that is fresh and always invigorating when you all come on the program.
We're glad you think that. So
plant politicians.
Well, there's a little bit of politics and philosophy now, isn't there? So
there is.
Okay. Well, just to give people a little bit more idea about it, again, it's happening on the 31st at the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center. They can learn more about it at the gardenconservancy.org. And tell us a little bit more about the Garden Conservancy.
Well, they're a really interesting organization. They're a nonprofit that was put together about 20 years ago with the main purpose being really very much fashioned after what they've done in Europe in taking exceptional private American gardens and making them live in the future once their owners no longer can care for them and making them available for the public as educational and inspirational places. And so that's what they do.
And here in Texas, many of us have visited Peckerwood Gardens between here and Houston. Absolutely spectacular space. And the thought of that not being a garden at sometimes is absolutely heartbreaking, but they're going to take that garden on, and that's the kind of space we're talking about.
Yeah.
Remarkable.
Yeah, and they do the open days thing around the country, which is they open private gardens now that are around the country that aren't usually open to people to see. And we have it here in Austin every other year.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite all-time garden events, the Garden Conservancy Open Days Tour. And they're alternating now here in Austin with these symposiums. You're going to be you're going to be talking about plant-driven design and your aesthetic. And this is going to be an interesting year, I think, to talk about that, given the fact that this has been the most extreme summer ever.
Right. Well, we face some of those challenges every summer because we're bi-statal. We come back and forth between Colorado and Austin, and our plants have to endure, 2 or 3 week jaunts in the summer when we're not there to care for them.
Right.
So we've pretty systematically destroyed a lot of the plants that can't handle that anyway.
Right.
But this year was certainly a test, and so it reminds us of what it takes to, when you're designing a garden, to come up with plants that'll hold things together when you're not there tending it quite as much as you want.
Well, even if you are there tending it, Scott, one thing that I've heard so often this year from across the board from so many people is they've had it. They no longer can buy into the traditional lawn and shrubs and that kind of aesthetic because they know it doesn't work. They can't, for one thing in Austin, they can't afford it. But they still want something interesting. They want something lively. And that's one of the takeaways that y'all have gotten from this year, really, isn't it? The focusing on a kind of maybe a leaner aesthetic, but a vibrant aesthetic.
I don't know if our aesthetic is leaner, but it's definitely more focused on the plants that really do keep performing for us.
It's a shift. It's not actually less plants. I think it's just that we're needing to focus on different types of plants.
Okay.
And I think Austin's been starting to embrace that already, just from an aesthetic point of view, even before it became an issue with water, because people really in this town like spiky plants and they like those powerful looking desert plants, whereas a lot of other parts of Texas are like, no. So I think Austin's already ahead in that game, but I think actually those plants in a hot summer like this, they hold up really well, but they can be almost tiresome because what you are looking for is some softness. You don't want to think, you're in the Sahara.
Right.
And so what we're looking for are plants that are tough and need very little water and can stand brutal heat, but still give some kind of a sense of abundance and softness and lushness.
And who wants a garden that's just all one thing, or and not some kind of combination of the other? And when I think of y'all's gardens, I think of kind of wild abundance of textures and shapes and forms.
Yeah. Right. No, we want everything that we can possibly have that will work.
Right.
So, to put it simply,
when I said leaner aesthetic, I thought, what am I saying? I'm talking to Lauren and Scott.
Well, you can say that, but we're going to show you other options.
Plant pigs.
So,
right. Well, that's funny. But let's talk about some of the, when you talk about the kind of plants that provide that sense of, there's, I guess, a sense of structure and vibrancy that really hang in there with you. What are some of the things that you've really grown to, that have popped out for you this summer that really did that?
Well, shrub palms for sure. So we have several different kinds. The med fan palm is probably the most iconic, used here a lot in Austin.
Used a whole lot, right.
But there's also the southeastern native, the needle palm, which takes a lot of shade, dry shade, which a lot of us have.
The hardy parlor palm is another one that's a small palm that does really well, the Chamaedorea radicalis.
Yeah.
Real feathery and elegant and looks lush. You'd think it would need a lot of water and it's tough as nails.
So those are great. And then the other group of plants that really looks lush, even when it's as dry and hot and miserable as it can be, are asparagus ferns.
Yeah.
And
love them.
Really tough plants that looks like they really ought to be in a tropical rainforest, but that's not where they are at all.
Especially the little foxtail form.
Yeah, and then we've had so much fun when we did get the luck to get an occasional thunderstorm that would come through to have a whole bunch of rain lilies pop up, which of course they're doing with abandon right now. And that's always great too, just to have something that'll instantly revive your garden and respond.
Right, and that's, one of the joys you get after a brutal stretch like we've had this year is when you do get that final shower, or everything just responds. It's like the earth has exhaled blooms,
Yeah, they've been
like
stored up and waiting
the sigh
for it.
of relief, and it's absolutely what's happening I drove through East Austin yesterday. Saw an old house on a lot that looks like it's not been cared for in a long time, with probably about 10 to 15,000 rain lilies all blooming simultaneously. Just gorgeous sight. That little floating layer of white above the green, amazing stuff. So I think folks are going to have a good time at this symposium. It sounds like y'all are going to have a great time with your topic. I know that people will enjoy hearing you. Maybe kind of walk through the basics here once again. It's going to be on the 31st.
Halloween. It's an easy way to remember it.
Yeah, yes.
Easy to remember that. So
Come in costume if you like.
Right. The Austin way.
And I understand that there's a special treat that goes along with this, which is that part of the event it involves a reception at James David's garden.
That'd be the night before.
Okay.
The evening before that. For those who want to attend, they can also register to do that.
So if you want to see a garden of abundance and lots of cool plants, that is probably one of the coolest in the state of Texas, and I think folks will certainly enjoy doing that. And it's all for a good cause, too. Again, the Garden Conservancy, so people who go to the symposium, the dollars will be going to preserve great American gardens.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What could be cooler than that?
Yeah.
I hope you're going to sell your books, too.
We will have our books there, absolutely.
Right.
Okay, and the most recent one is?
Plant-driven design.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Well, Scott and Lauren, it is always fun to have you on. Some of my favorite guests on the program. You're always, some sparks always when we have you on the program, so I appreciate that very much. Coming up next, it's Daphne with Down to Earth.